So this is the iPhone 16, and in this episode, I'm going to show you how to get the best battery life on your iPhone for 2025. So welcome back to the Morning Ackerman channel, the shiny new iPhone for the holidays. Well, most of these tips are going to apply to your iPhone, whether you got a 16, a 15, maybe even a 14, one of the older used models. Most of these should apply. So let's start with the very first one, which is going to be to go to and turn off background app refresh. So we'll go over here to General, and we're going to scroll down until you see Autofill and Passwords. Under there, you'll locate Background App Refresh. When clicking that, by default, all these applications in the background are on, and they are using a ton of battery life. So when you see these claims about getting great battery life, and then you wonder why my iPhone is not getting as good a battery life as the marketing claims, it could be because all these background applications are on, in effect, causing you to have worse battery life. So this is the first one. Now, you don't want to turn all these off if you do rely on background apps refreshing data, but you can turn off most of them because I'm sure a lot of them don't even matter. Like, for example, if you're playing a game, why would you have that background app refreshing all the time? You're not playing it all the time. For example, would you have Audible always refreshing? You could just go on the app and just reload your books. It's not a big deal. You might want to keep stuff on like Instagram or like a social media app because you might want your notifications to all be up to date, but you probably don't need background app refresh on for things like Prime Video or PUBG Mobile, for example. So that's the first one. Turn that off and you should have better battery life. The next one is to enable low power mode. Now you can enable this from the control center if you have the toggle on. So go ahead and press the plus icon. This is going to be an iOS 18, add a control, and then you're going to find low power mode right there. Place it wherever you want. If you want it for convenience, you might want to put it on the first page over here, but just go ahead and tap that and it'll tell you what it does. And turns off background app refresh like we talked about earlier, but this is going to turn off like most of them. It's going to turn off some automatic downloads, reduce some visual effects, and save you even more battery life. So what it does is basically is reducing background activities. It lowers the brightness a little bit and it disables automatic downloads. Overall, it's pretty useful when you're running pretty low on charge and you just need that extra bump to get you through your day. Go ahead and enable low power mode. Some people actually don't even use this, even though it is available for iPhone. Like I know some iPhone users didn't even know that existed. So it might seem rudimentary or just very basic to the seasoned iPhone users, but some people just don't know that exists. So use low power mode. Now, if you do have a Pro iPhone with a 120 Hertz ProMotion display, do keep in mind when you do turn this on, it will disable that. So your phone might feel a little bit laggier or slower. You might perceive it that way because it's turning off the 120 Hertz. So do keep that in mind. So the next one is to go ahead and disable or turn on airplane mode when you are in low signal areas. For example, when you're on an airplane or when you're in an area where your phone is just struggling to find signal. Turn this on temporarily because you need to know that when the phone is searching for signal or you're like one bar garages, things like that, if you're in these areas for a definitive amount of time or a long time, you will be seeing a significant drop in battery life. So do turn airplane mode on for those situations, and then you should see much better battery life long term for those situations. Now, while the widgets are impressive here for iOS, they are really nice looking and they do have more polish, I feel like, than most Android phones, just the way they look. They're not as interactive most of the time, but they also still drain battery in the background. So you're not going to want to populate your entire iPhone with widgets all over the place if you want great battery life. So you might want to stick to the 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 4 that you really like. But if you start filling the entire page up with widget after widget after widget, and then widget over here, and then widget over here, and then apps here, swipe to this page, another widget, a long widget down here, and put one right there, expect a significant decrease in battery life because those widgets do have some activities in them that are using battery in the background. They're not just pure app icons like this. So do keep that in mind when you are considering adding widgets to your home screen. Now, when it comes to adjusting screen brightness, I don't recommend doing it manually unless you just don't care about your battery life. I do recommend having auto brightness turned on. Now, some people do not know this, but you have to go all the way to accessibility, display and text size, and scroll all the way to the bottom. It's really buried in here. I hate this. But if you go over here, make sure that's on for the iPhone because this is going to automatically adjust to get you the best battery possible throughout the day. You might forget when you get busy that you had your brightness cranked up, and you're going to drain a lot more battery than you would have prior. Now, some people are not going to want to use this because they love having full control over their device, which is very understandable. You pay hard money, you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to go ahead and turn it up whatever you want. But if you want the optimal battery life, I do recommend always having the auto brightness turned on. Now, it is on by default out of the box, so you shouldn't have to worry about this too much. But if you find that your phone's too dim or too bright, you probably need to go check that just to make sure. Now, the next one's going to come in the way of disabling unnecessary notifications. So let's go back here. We're going to scroll down until you see notifications. And then if you look down here, just kind of go through them and turn some off that you don't need. I tend to turn a lot off because I don't like distractions, but some people have a ton on. Things are constantly buzzing and ringing. And while these are not going to like destroy your battery life by no means, they are fetching in the background a lot, and they will cause a substantial decrease day to day. So if you have more of these off, you're probably going to get closer to the marketing claims of what this phone is able to get in battery life. And I'm sure you don't want like every single app you have giving you notifications anyway. So this should just be basic practice when you first get a new iPhone, like you probably did this holiday maybe. This is definitely some good practice right here, just to go through and turn off a bunch of apps that are just not necessary to distract you throughout your day when you're trying to get your New Year's goals and resolutions handled. So the next one is going to be to keep iOS up to date. Now, I don't recommend going in here, go to general, go to software updates. I don't recommend doing it by yourself all the time. And I actually didn't do 18.2 on here because I wanted to show this. You can go in here and swipe down to go ahead and refresh to check if there's something. But I recommend always having automatic updates on. It's very seamless like this because with automatic updates, you can update overnight. For sure, you'll just be sleeping, it'll update, you'll be up to date. Very, very simple. I really do like that. You can also do update tonight. Like you can have this running in the background and then it'll just update later on. But definitely keep your software up to date because battery life sometimes takes a hit with certain bugs. Apple fixes it and then the battery life gets better. Also keep in mind though that certain updates can actually introduce worse battery life. So it's always a gamble, but usually users will complain. Apple will fix that as well. So definitely keep your software up to date for better battery life on your new iPhone. Okay, so this one goes under the radar, but I'm going to recommend you to use Wi-Fi at all times when possible because 5G is a big, big drainer on the battery life. When I go out and about, I notice my battery just starts draining way faster by comparison to when I'm at home. That's mostly due to Wi-Fi. Or if you're in an area where they do have Wi-Fi, I would go ahead and recommend to use that Wi-Fi if possible, especially if it's secure. Go ahead and use that because the more you're on mobile data, the quicker it's going to drain. This is why a lot of people plug their phones in when using GPS because they're combining data plus, the GPS, which is already a big battery drain. But 5G definitely is going to drain quite a bit. So I would recommend keeping that Wi-Fi on at all times when possible. It really will help your battery life. Okay, the next one is disable the push notifications from mail. So let's go in the settings here. We're going to look for mail. Just search it out like this. Very simple. And then you're going to want to go to mail accounts. You'll see you're going to have a few in there, but go where it says fetch new data. Click on this and disable this push. This is always updating in the background, draining effectively battery all day long. So you'll want to turn that off. And I would even put on manual if you really want to save a lot of battery. You will have to go in the app and pull down the refresh if it does that. But if you want like maybe a little bit better battery life somewhere in between, you could put on automatically. And if you really don't want it draining all the time, just definitely turn on manual. So fetching new data, this is like one of the oldest tricks in the book, but people still don't do it sometimes because it's kind of buried in there. I mean, a lot of the Apple settings are, you got to go into a setting and into a setting to remember to do that. You set up an iPhone, you're downloading apps, you don't care. You're like, I like the camera, I like this phone. This is fun. I'm playing with the camera control. You forget that your push data is on. You're like, why does this battery life suck? Not even realizing that you're the one who didn't put the setting on, turn certain settings, tweak certain settings to get better battery life. And I know some people are going to say, well, it should just get better battery life out of the box. And it does. It actually does. This phone gets great battery life even with no settings tweaked. But these settings tweaked are going to enhance it even further than what you're seeing out of the box. Now, this one is going to be a little bit debatable because people do need this on for a lot of things, but if you really want to save some extra battery life, this is not a guaranteed. You don't have to do this, but I would turn off location services at least on certain applications. So go into here and tweak the ones that don't really need it or while you put them on while using or never if they don't really need it. Because these are huge battery drains, huge. So for some people, you might only need location on for a few things like maybe maps, calendar, because you want to see the location when you schedule something, maybe Groupon because you're looking for a place that you're about to go get a coupon for or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like weather, you want the location so you know what the weather is in your location, but you don't need it on for something like Final Cut camera. Probably like, do you need to know that information or news? I don't need it on for news. It's going to show me news either way. Like, what do I need that on? You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is one of the areas. It's kind of debatable, but definitely if you want to find a happy medium between having location on and not having a bad experience where you have to like go turn it on every time, then just put it on for the main apps that really matter for you. That should save you some battery. So the next one is going to be optimized battery charging. So we're going to go into settings, hold down settings, click on battery, and then we'll go into charging here, and you'll want to turn on optimized battery charging. Now you can turn it off as well if you want it off for like a day, if you want to tweak this up. But if you want the battery itself, like the actual cell inside of the iPhone to last longer, you'll want to go ahead and turn this down. These buttons down to like 80% down here, and only charge up to 80. That'll extend the longevity of that battery if you want it to last a super long time. So do keep that in mind. This is one of the areas that can actually extend the physical battery in your phone, not just like, software day-to-day battery life, the actual battery inside. So keep that in mind for that kind of usage. And that's going to wrap it up here for me today on how to save a lot of battery life on your iPhone and get better battery life in 2025. Now, keep in mind, there are more tips. For example, you could actually physically or software-wise just have less apps on your phone in general. That'll save more battery life as well because the phone is actually working less hard when you have less apps on your phone. I would say also don't always use the camera like in 4K 60 for several hours at a time. If you're going to do stuff like that, you better be relying on having a battery pack or something because that's one of the biggest drainers, the highest quality video setting and shooting for several hours at a time. That could definitely drain your battery. And also, there are some other features buried deep inside, deep inside the iOS operating system that probably don't affect it too much, but could help. Like you could go deep into their analytics and tracking and stuff like that. But we're not going to go into that today. I wanted to show you more simple tips. And I hope this helped you out. And I hope you enjoy your new phone that you probably picked up. Or if you had an old one and this is going to help you tweak some settings, I hope it helped out as well. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Nick Ackerman. This is my second channel to my main channel where we do comparisons, reviews of some of the latest flagships as well as other phones and tablets occasionally. So I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well and peace.